evening to the Monday, March 25th Mayor and Council meeting. We'll start this off with the Pledge of Allegiance. And I would like to ask Caroline Williams and Lauren Rutherford to come forward and lead us in the pledge, if you would, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, God, indivisible.
The first item on the agenda this evening is the approval of the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Judy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Grower. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously. Now, I would also like to recognize these young women that led us in the pledge. And I would like to give you a little bit of information on what these young women have done to date, which is truly, truly a testament of what our young women can do. Caroline Williams, class of 2020, first began gymnastics with the City of Roswell in our 2-year-old class. Caroline is currently a level 10 gymnast, which is the highest level prior to elite or Olympic level, and she is a junior at Centennial High. She has trained her entire gymnastics career with our program. These are some of her highlights. Level 9 regional qualifier, finished 5th on bars out of 8 states in her age group. Level 10 regional qualifier and national alternate floor state champion and 4th on floor and 9th all around in the 8-state region. Offered a full athletic gymnastics scholarship to Arkansas, ranked 10th in the nation, Division I. Utah State, BYU, ranked 17th in the nation, Division I. And Nebraska, ranked 6th in the nation, Division I. Offered walk-on at UGA with potential for scholarship her last 2 years. Caroline Williams accepted the scholarship to Nebraska in October of 2018 and will begin there in 2020. Let's all have a hand for Caroline. Now I'd like to tell you about Lauren, and after I read Lauren's bio, what I'd like for the young ladies to do is come forward and just tell us what you've enjoyed about the gymnastics program, and then if you are good with it, we would love to have our pictures taken with you. So Lauren Rutherford, class of 2021, first began gymnastics with the City of Roswell in our 2-year-old class. Lauren is currently a level 10 gymnast, which is the highest level prior to the elite Olympic level, and she is a sophomore at Johnson Ferry Christian School. Lauren has trained her entire gymnastics career with our program. Some of Lauren's highlights are level 8 Georgia State team member, 6 kids chosen out of the entire state of Georgia to represent the state of Georgia at the regional competition involving 8 states. At regionals, she placed 2nd on the floor and 9th AA. Level 9, Lauren was an Eastern National Team member representing the Region 8 team to compete against the eastern half of the United States. At this competition, she finished 2nd on floor and 9th AA out of the entire eastern United States. Lauren also finished 2nd in our 8-state region on vault and was a Georgia State champion. Level 10, Lauren was a junior Olympic national team member and a regional qualifier, finishing 3rd on floor and 6th all around. Lauren was offered full athletic gymnastics scholarships to the Division I BYU, Utah State, and North Carolina State. Lauren was being actively recruited by numerous other Division Division I colleges when she recently accepted a verbal commitment to North Carolina State. So let's have a hand for Lauren. And would you ladies come forward and just tell us what you've enjoyed about the gymnastics program here in Roswell, and maybe a little about your teachers or coaches, I should say.
Probably enjoyed the coaching. Just how they've been so personable and just really able to help us. I've enjoyed the environment, both the coaching and my team and girls around me, because they've been very supportive through everything I've done, and the coaching, they've helped me gain the skills I've needed to receive my goal of a college scholarship.
Well, ladies, thank you so much for all of your achievements, and also I would like to thank our Rec and Parks Department, the gold medal winning Rec and Parks Department, because this is a true testament of the environment that you're offering and the level of skill that these participants can achieve. So thank you all, and I would love to have a picture with you. The next item on our agenda this evening is a proclamation honoring and recognizing Transportation Director Steve Asenbrack on his retirement. Now, let me just tell you, when we were just talking about accomplishments at a young age, I will tell you that Mr. Asenbrack has had many accomplishments, and if you all will bear with me, this is quite a lengthy proclamation, but he deserves every word. Whereas in 1980, Steve Asenbrack began his career and served our country honorably as a U.S. Army officer, lieutenant colonel, stationed in locations throughout the country and the world. And whereas Mr. Asenbrack served 20 years in the Army as a Ranger School graduate and is airborne qualified. And whereas Mr. Asenbrack received a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from the Citadel, a master's degree in business management from Central Michigan University, and a master's degree in civil engineering from the University of Maryland. And whereas during Mr. Asenbrack's career, he has served his peers and enhanced his expertise through his service in several professional organizations, including as a registered professional engineer in Georgia and Virginia, as a fellow of the American Society of Civil Engineers, as a member of the Institute of Transportation Engineers, as a leadership fellow of the American Public Works Association, as an eminent engineer at Tau Beta Pi, the oldest engineering honor society in the United States, and as an instructor for the National Highway Institute. And whereas in 2001, Mr. Asenbrack first joined the City of Roswell as Deputy Director of Transportation, served as Roswell's Transportation Director from 2002 to 2006, and resumed the directorship in October of 2008 after serving as Director of Civil Engineering for Pond and Company. And whereas, under Mr. Asenbrack's leadership, the Roswell Department of Transportation received accreditation by the American Public Works Association in March of 2016. And whereas, under Mr. Asenbrack's leadership, the Roswell Department of Transportation has received numerous awards and recognitions, including the Agency Achievement Award from the Georgia Institute of Transportation Engineers, the Best Innovative Solutions Award from the Georgia Department of Transportation for the Grimes Bridge Roundabout, and awards for the Sun Valley Phase 1 project from the American Society of Civil Engineers and the American Council of Engineering Companies of Georgia, and the ACEC GA People's Choice Award. And whereas Mr. Asenbrack has served the city of Roswell for 15 years with distinction, fairness, and integrity, and numerous citizens have expressed appreciation for the work the department did under Mr. Asenbrack's leadership. And whereas, after an engineering career spanning 39 years, Mr. Asenbrack retired on March 6, 2019, and looks forward to spending a wonderful retirement with his wife of 35 years and his 2 daughters while pursuing personal interests. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Lori Henry, do hereby proclaim March 25th as Steve Asenbrack Day and ask all of our citizens and the City of Roswell employees to join in honoring and recognizing Steve Asenbrack for his commendable career and congratulate him on a well-deserved retirement.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say that Steve's wife, Ilsa, is here, as long as with his mother, to see this great occasion. We did get Steve a small plaque, and I want to read it here. And then, Steve, this is in recognition of your 15 years of dedicated service and all the groundbreaking work that you accomplished for the city of Roswell. Thank you, brother.
Thanks, Dave.
Would you like to say a few words?
Be honored, Mayor Henry, members of the City Council. Thank you all. This is an honor beyond belief. I'm truly just probably never recover from this. Thank you so much for doing such a nice proclamation for me. It's been an honor to work here at the city. I know I'll probably forget some things, but I want to thank my wife. I want to thank my mom for their support. I need to thank the department. Being a department head in this city is a team sport. I was modestly successful, but I was successful because of your support, because of the department's support, working with the other fellow department heads, the rest of the city staff, which is fantastic, working with the citizens, working in the Georgia Department of Transportation. It was a lot of work. But it was meaningful work, and I think we accomplished a lot together. I wanted to say a couple things. You know, I'm a military guy, and once you're in the military, it's just sort of in your blood. So I was born in Germany because my dad was stationed in Germany at the time, and we've lived all over the country. And then I went to a military high school and a military college, and then I spent my first 20 years in the military. And what's significant about that is I learned a lot of leadership and I learned a lot of management. As I said, people, I built a lot of things and I blew a lot of things up. But the thing is that the Army tells you where to go. The Army gives you orders, and you go to those duty stations. And when our oldest daughter was approaching high school and I had just become the deputy director, we decided we wanted to give our daughter a good high school education. So we said, you know what, we're gonna move to Roswell. But what's significant about that is we were 43 years old. It was the first time in our professional life we decided where we wanted to live. So we were our own assignments officer, and we assigned ourselves to Fort Roswell, and we've been here ever since, and it's been a great assignment. The other thing I'll tell you is no matter how hard the Army jobs were, you only did them for 2 or 3 years, and then the Army moved you to different places. Being the department head, then leaving to go work as a consultant gave me a great broadening experience. And when you gave me the chance to come back as a do-over and get it right the second time, I felt really a lot of pressure to do a good job, because I wanted you to know that that I didn't want to let you down. So I put my head down and I worked as hard as I could for 10 and a half straight years. And I probably didn't do such a good job pacing myself, because like I say, in the Army, every couple years you would move. But I'm ready. It's time. It's been a good run, and I want to thank all of you. It's been an honor and a pleasure working with all of you. You've got a great staff here. It's a great city. We've done a lot of good things. There's a lot of really good things in the pipeline. I really can't wait to see you guys accomplish the Big Creek Parkway and the Gateway and all these other things. But thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of your support. It's been an honor, and I'm going to miss all of you. Thank you very much.
Will you take a picture with us? Okay, I'd also like to ask Transportation Department to come forward for the picture as well, please. Well, I think those are all of the good news stories we have tonight. Now we'll get on to the riveting agenda, and I'll turn this over to Councilmember Palermo in Community Development.
Thank you, Mayor Henry. Item number 3, approval of a text amendment to the Unified Development Code regarding Section 1.1.6, prior approval conditions. This is the second reading.
Mr. Davidson.
Thank you. This is an ordinance to amend the Unified Development Code by modifying Section 1.1.6, prior approval conditions. Now therefore, the Mayor and Council of the City of Roswell, Georgia, pursuant to their authority, do hereby amend the Unified Development Code as follows. The Mayor and Council hereby amend the Unified Development Code by deleting Section 1.1.6, prior approval conditions, letter A, in its entirety, and replacing with the following, text of which is incorporated herein by reference, and if approved, this will be the second reading.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is the second reading for the change related to 1.1.6 to allow for all lighting conditions to be removed from the old conditions due to new technology. And that is the only portion that we are removing from Section 1.1.6. All the other items will remain, all conditions related to hours in operation, number of dwelling units, old conditions, other than lighting. Do you have any questions?
Does Council have any questions? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to come forward and speak? Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the second reading.
Motion by Councilmember Palermo. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Wilsey and Councilmember Tizer. All those in favor, please raise your hands, and it passes unanimously.
Item number 4, approval of the text amendment to the Unified Development Code regarding Section 2.2.19, residential garage parking, letter A, detached house and attached house. This is the second reading.
Mr. Davidson.
Thank you. This is an ordinance to amend the Unified Development Code by modifying Section 2.2.19 residential garage parking. Now therefore, the mayor and council of the city of Roswell, Georgia, pursuant to their authority, do hereby amend the Unified Development Code, the text of which is incorporated herein by reference, and if approved, this will be the second reading.
Yes, so this is an amendment to section 2.2.19 to change letter A to add in that this is for any house in a new development. So this is related to the garage parking area. So what we're looking to do is any house that's been built since 2014 that they need to meet the garage standards. Anything that's in a subdivision or has been around since prior to 2014, because they were already built, sometimes they can't meet the new garage placement rules. So we felt that anything new would have to, but anything that's existing when they've come through would be allowed to meet the requirement, anything, not the new requirement of having to meet the new garage standards. Do you have any questions?
Does council have any questions? Is there anyone in the public that would like to come forward and speak? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the second reading.
Motion by Councilmember Palermo. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Wilsey. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously.
Item number 5, approval of a text amendment to the Unified Development Code regarding Section 10.2.5, buffer installation. This is the second reading.
Mr. Davidson.
Thank you. This is an ordinance to amend the Unified Development Code by modifying Section 10.2.5, buffer installation. Now therefore, the mayor and council of the city of Roswell, Georgia, pursuant to their authority, do hereby amend the Unified Development Code, the text of which is incorporated herein by reference, and if approved, this will be the second reading.
So we found that in section 10.2.5, we decided to add this language as it was stated in Articles 3, 4, and 5. We felt that this would be what do you call it? Should be added in this location also because this is where our buffer section is. So this language is added. In no case can a building be placed less than 10 feet from the interior edge of the buffer. And staff recommends approval of the second reading.
Does council have any questions? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to come forward and speak? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve this second reading.
Motion by Councilmember Palermo. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Wilsey and Councilmember Tizer. All those in favor? Grower, sorry. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously.
Item number 6, approval of a text amendment to the Unified Development Code to add Section 13.7.16 regarding a variation/undue hardship in the historic district. This is the second reading.
Mr. Davidson.
Thank you. This is an ordinance to amend the Unified Development Code by amending Section 13.7, Historic Review. Now therefore, the mayor and council of the city of Roswell, Georgia, pursuant to their authority, do hereby amend Section 17.7, Historic Review of the Unified Development Code by creating a new section 13.7.16, Undue Hardship, the text of which is incorporated herein by reference, and if approved, this will be the second reading.
Yes, so this is required by the state. Has been reviewed by the state. We had this language in our old code, so we brought it back. This would allow the HPC the authority if, as I explained at the first reading, that if some windows needed to be replaced that were done maybe in the 1920s and they can't find the exact same windows, this would allow someone to get similar windows and allow the HPC to state, you know, you can use the similar windows. So this keeps the architectural integrity of the historic district. Staff recommends approval.
Does council have any questions? Is there anyone in the public that would like to come forward and speak? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the second reading.
Motion by Councilmember Palermo. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Tizer. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously.
Item number 7, approval of a text amendment to the Unified Development Code by creating section 13.7.17 to establish criteria on how to expand the historic district boundaries and create a new district. This is the second reading.
Mr. Davidson.
Thank you. This is an ordinance to amend the Unified Development Code by creating section 13.7.17 regarding the process for expansion of the historic boundaries and designation of a new historic district. Now therefore, the mayor and council of the city of Roswell, Georgia, pursuant to their authority, do hereby amend the Unified Development Code, the text of which is incorporated herein by reference, and if approved, this would be the second reading.
Yes, this is to create section 13.717 to establish criteria on how to expand the historic district if we ever get anyone who would like to expand. It's also to allow someone who's not adjoining the historic district to create a new one. So this has been reviewed by the state, and it is required by the state that we have criteria in our ordinance to indicate how someone would expand the boundaries or create a new district. In the 20 years I've been here, we have had one that has gone through the process to expand the historic district. Now that doesn't mean we might not have others in the future, but in the 20 years I've been here, we've had one. Staff recommends approval. The Planning Commission did add some language, but staff recommends approval of the second reading. Do you have any questions?
Does council have any questions? Is there anyone in the public that would like to come forward and speak? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the second reading.
Motion by Councilmember Palermo. Do I have a second? Second by Councilmember Wilsey. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously. Next, we are on to the Public Safety Department. Councilmember Wilsey.
Yes, I'd like to introduce item number 8, approval of additional funding in the amount of $400,000 for the 911 Center Design Project, presented by Helen Duncan, Chief of Police.
Good evening, Councilor, Mayor, Mr. Palmer. We're requesting approval of additional funding in that set amount of $400,000. Reason in 2016, an in-depth study of the 911 Center was conducted where it was documented infrastructure issues, both medium and high-risk liability, ultimately recommending a need for a new 911 center. Excuse me. The cost of the center is anticipated to be $5.5 million. Design money must typically be between 10 to 15% of the project. We requested last year in fiscal year 19, $250,000, but that was cut off, $100,000 was cut off that. Therefore, we are requesting an additional $400,000 to move this project forward. The plan is to use impact fees as a funding source.
Does council have any questions? Is there anyone in the public that would like to come forward and speak? Do I have a motion?
I've moved to approve additional funding in the amount of $400,000 for the 911 Center.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Wilsey.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Judy. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously.
Item number 9, approval of a resolution to submit an application for a 2019 Homeland Security grant in the amount of $70,000, presented by Chief Duncan.
Yes, we are seeking an approval of a resolution to submit the application for a 2019 Homeland Security grant in the amount of $70,000. This monies will be used for our, for our explosive dog. We already purchased the dog, so we don't need monies for that. This money will be used for lights on a vehicle, a Tahoe vehicle, lights on the vehicle, training explosives, a day vault in the vehicle, radio, Axion camera, and training aids for this dog that we already have. Everyone already met the dog. Alf, sorry, went blank. So everyone, we have the dog. We just need the to accessorize him.
Does council have any questions? Is there anyone in the public that would like to come forward and speak? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Wilsey. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Tizer and Councilmember Palermo. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously.
Thank you.
The next two items are under the city attorney's report, and I would like him to go ahead and tell us what the procedure is we're to follow on these, and then ask him to call those.
Thank you, Mayor. Under the Roswell Code of Ordinances, the Section 3.3.2, an alcohol beverage licensee license may be suspended or revoked by the City Council for any violation of Chapter 3. The City Council is required to give at least 10 days prior notice to the licensee of the time, place, and purpose of their hearing, at which time the suspension or revocation will be considered. Further, under Section 3.3.5, emergency suspension of sales, the city administrator is authorized to suspend the sale of alcoholic beverages under any license for any emergency situation when he deems that such suspension necessary for the protection of the public health, safety, or welfare. Such suspension may be made effective immediately and shall remain in force until the mayor and council determine that the emergency is over, or until the next meeting of the city council, at which time the suspension shall cease unless it is extended by mayor and city council. So by code, tonight, the suspension will cease that the city administrator has issued to both Cancun and Evolution, unless this council deems it appropriate to extend said suspension. This meeting is called for the purpose of calling for the hearing. The legal department is asking that the hearing be called for April 8th for a determination on whether to suspend or revoke the alcohol licenses. This one is for Cancun Bar and Grill. The charges are that the licensee did violate Chapter 3, Section 3.5.4 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Roswell when, on or about March 15th, Laura Perez, an employee of Cancun Bar and Grill, and/or Fannery, I'm going to mess this up, Hammermilo, another employee of Cancun Bar and Grill, sold an alcohol beverage to an undercover law enforcement officer who is not of legal drinking age, which is 21. Both were issued citations to appear and answer the charges in the Roswell Municipal Court. Cancun Bar and Grill had just had its alcohol license reinstated by the city on March 7th, 2019, after previously serving a 60-day suspension for the sale of alcohol beyond the permitted hours. Further, Cancun's hearing to be reinstated had been delayed a month because Cancun had advertised sales that were in violation of the city's alcohol ordinance. By the reasons of the foregoing, a public hearing to determine whether or not the licensee aforesaid should be suspended or revoked or canceled should be convened. As I said, the legal department suggests that it be held on April 8th, but it's up to this council. It can be further out if this council so desires, but we recommend having a hearing to determine whether this council should revoke the license at that time.
Does council have any questions for, yes, Councilmember Judy?
So is this separate from the court proceedings with the citations?
Yes, this is a civil procedure where the council's deciding whether, the hearing will determine whether this council determines whether to suspend, revoke, or do nothing with the licensee.
Okay, and do we know when the citations will be heard in court?
I am not sure. I think somebody from Evolution said it was April 19th is their court date.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Councilmember Grower.
I just want to understand, so if we're to vote in favor of scheduling the hearing, does that mean the suspension continues until then, or are those two separate things?
No, that's two separate things. By code, the suspension is automatically over tonight unless this council makes a determination that it wants to extend the suspension until the time of the hearing.
Additional questions from council? We've got someone here from Cancun Bar and Grill, so if you would like to come forward and speak.
Thank you, Jerry Wood, representing Cancun Bar and Grill. I will not be addressing the April hearing. It's my understanding that the citation will be heard on April 19th, but that's not what I'm addressing you tonight. The question here tonight, there are two questions. One is when to reschedule. That's in your discretion. The sooner we get past that, we support an early date and moving forward. That's not the issue. The issue is there an emergency? This suspension was based upon 3.3.5, which says if there is it's necessary for protection of the public, for health, safety, and welfare. If there is an emergency, then it can be suspended. I don't believe we have an emergency ongoing. I'm working with the Cancun Bar and Grill. We've terminated the employee who made the underage sale. We're going to be working with them to require the servicers to attend alcoholic beverage ordinance compliance seminars. We're going to establish a written policy. We're going to post signs that display "We ID." We're going to put procedures in place to monitor the compliance with the ordinance. We're going to give all of the servers a copy of this ordinance. And we have established a zero tolerance policy. If an employee breaches the law, whether it's after-age sales, after-hour sales, or sales to employees, they're going to be terminated. We have already terminated the employee that was guilty here. So I don't believe we have an emergency, and that is the question tonight. Is there an emergency to continue the suspension? Well, we're not talking about the first decision. I believe the emergency has passed. This council will be setting a date for a hearing. We're working on compliance, so I don't believe there's an emergency. And that's the only real question tonight. Not should it be suspended, that's for a later date. The question is there an emergency that requires a continuation of the suspension? We don't believe there is, and we ask that you give us time to come into compliance, and we look forward to hearing and discussing that later. Do you have any questions?
Does council have any questions for Mr. Wood? Yes, Councilmember Tizer.
Thank you, Mayor. The question I have is, was the licensee or the owner on premise at the time of this incident?
Come forward if you can ask her, Mr. Tizer. You were on the premises when this underage sale was made? You were at the bar? Uh-huh. The answer is yes.
Councilmember Judy.
Mr. Davison, I think this is for you. Previously, when we did the suspension, was it for underage sale or was it for after-hours sale? I think it was after-hours sale, correct?
The previous suspension was for after-hours sales.
Okay, so okay. Thank you.
Additional questions from council? Yes, Councilmember Zapata.
Thank you, Mayor. Are those policies and procedures already in place, or they are working to implement them?
I was retained today. I'm not prepared to answer all of your questions, but I'm going to meet with them tomorrow to make sure all of these are put into place. And we'll do a survey to see what is already in place. But I'm going to make sure before I leave this job that they're all in place. And they will be in place before they come back to this body.
Thank you.
They've already committed to me to do this.
Thanks.
Councilmember Grower.
I think the fundamental challenge I have is we had these same owners in front of us not too long ago for a violation, and these owners looked at us and said, this is going to be taken care of, this is solved, you're not going to hear from us again. And here we are, but I think it's been 90 days maybe since the last, I don't know how long it's been. It hasn't been a long time, it feels like, since we were told that these issues are going to be addressed. And, you know, for me, it's a little bit disappointing that we're here again. And so I'm trying to figure out, given that we've seen this establishment and now, once again, you know, I'm struggling with why this isn't an emergency until we can see this hearing again on April 8th.
That's my point. I don't want to get into the merits of the case because that's the April 10th or whatever date you pick. It's the question, is there an emergency? And I don't see the emergency ongoing because we are working on that. Employee's been terminated. We're putting into place policies. This council's discretion, whether it's suspended or not, would be after a full hearing. The question tonight, is there an emergency?
Yes, Councilmember Palermo.
Thank you, Mayor Henry. So I think what I've heard were some absolutely great policies that I believe should be enacted, and I wish had already been enacted to avoid this situation. But it's my belief, and everything I'm hearing and I'm seeing is that it is an emergency, and I do lean towards really extending this emergency and being able to have a better holistic view at that hearing to see if there's an ongoing emergency or not. But at the moment, I believe there still is an emergency.
Additional comments, questions from council?
The only thing I would say is I really think that this hearing should be on April 8th as soon as possible after, no matter what we decide on the emergency situation. This is a business, and we need to let them know where we stand.
Additional comments from council? Well, let me just say that I do...
Does council have any other questions for the commissioner?
No, I don't. I do feel that there is an emergency here because I don't feel that I can protect the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Roswell while they are still serving alcohol. But having said that, do we have a motion?
Motion to continue the emergency and schedule a hearing for April 8th.
Motion by Councilmember Grower. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Palermo. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And we've got Councilmember Zapata, Councilmember Grower, Wilsey, Palermo, and Judy in favor. All those opposed? Councilmember Tizer is opposed. The motion carries. The next item on the agenda is for the Evolution Restaurant. And could you please present that, Mr. Davidson?
Thank you. This is a resolution to set another public hearing for consideration of revocation or suspension of the alcohol beverage license for Evolution Restaurant, LLC, Joanne Armanta, holder of the alcoholic beverage license. They're charged with that the Elizabeth Soriano, an employee of Evolution Restaurant, on March 16th, 2019, sold an alcoholic beverage to an undercover law enforcement officer who was not of legal drinking age. Soriano, as well as Cesar Colonzo, the manager, were issued citations. Whereas the Code of Ordinances of the City of Roswell, Georgia provides that in Chapter 3, Article 3.3, Section 3.3.2, that alcoholic beverage license may be suspended or revoked by the City Council for any violation of Chapter 3. And whereas Section 3.3.2 provides the City Council shall give at least 10 days prior notice to the licensee of the time, place, and purpose of the hearing at which suspension or revocation will be considered. The legal department, again, recommends having a hearing on April 8th per this resolution, and for the sale of alcohol to minors. Again, their license has been suspended by the city administrator. And again, it's up to this council on whether they are, if the emergency continues.
Thank you, Mr. Davidson. Does council have any questions for Mr. Davidson? Yes, Councilmember Judy.
Is this their first situation of selling underage that we've dealt with?
So I believe this location had been cited before, but I think this is this licensee's first time.
Additional questions for Mr. Davidson? Is there anyone that would like to come forward on behalf of Evolution Restaurant to speak?
My name is Joanna Armonta. In regards to the licensee for Evolution, I do not have any record stating that we were ever cited before Evolution Bar and Grill for any violations. Yes, this is my first, I would say, suspension in regards to 3-3-2. I wasn't aware of the first one at all.
And also,
that was a different licensee.
It was a different licensee? Yeah. Okay.
When does the year that happened in the last, because we know the last owner, and they never have any ticket in the last year.
Yeah, it was probably
2018.
about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe a little longer.
And also, if I want to explain, well, we taken care about the rulers. We know everything. We give the book or the rulers to the workers. Each bartenders, I give it the rulers to learn, sign, put a sign in the door. The only wrong where I don't do this time, there's put a person on the door, taking care for like 2 stop point for ID, check it out.
Okay.
That's one of the points where I want to do it now in the future.
Déjame explicar. Okay, so what Mr. Collazo is trying to explain is that at this point, we have gotten all of the employees that are pouring to sign a consent form stating that they do understand that they are not to be serving underage people. We have, or child kids or whatever. We have placed signs everywhere in the front and the back, as well as the bar, that we ID. The only thing that we, pretty much feel that we failed upon to do is to get personally, now I am putting in an armored officer from a private security company to ID everyone that comes into this bar and grill. From 8 o'clock till, we close for business. The bands as well. We're in placing wristbands, underage, people that go, 18-year-olds that go in there, pretty much a big X on their hand, and the 21 and over drinkers are going to have bands, as well, so that we can identify them. Once our secret shopper is in there, or once we have everything in place as well to have it monitored more effectively and strenuously that we need. I know that I need to be there. I wasn't on the premises that day. I was not. I was in a prior engagement at a wedding, and, there's no excuse for it. And, I understand the laws, I understand the regulations, and this is my first offense. And if, you guys can see that, we have got in place more enforcement to regulate those for the public health and for people of Roswell.
Thank you. Does council have any questions? Councilmember Judy.
So these are currently in place as of today? The
As of
bands, the signs,
Yes.
everything?
Yes, and the employee as well, she was terminated.
Thank you.
Additional questions from council? Thank you very much. You can sit down. Do we have a motion?
Motion to set a hearing date for April 8th.
We have a motion by Councilmember Tizer. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Wilsey. All those in favor?
The question, clarifying
Yes,
question.
sir.
So I just want to be clear on this motion. So this motion is not extending the emergency status that the city administrator has deemed necessary till today? Is that correct?
Is that correct, Councilmember Tizer?
As I understand it, it ends unless we extend it, and my motion just sets a date. That's correct.
So the motion does not, so supporting this motion would mean that that there is no longer an emergency and they can serve alcohol tomorrow? Is that correct?
Unless you make another motion too.
Mr. Davidson?
Yes.
A question for Mr. Davidson. Could there be two motions regarding, like one regarding the date and one regarding the...
There can absolutely be two.
Thank you.
My preference would be to have everything together, because what I'll tell you is I do support the decision of there being an emergency and extending it. So my preference would be knowing that either this is the one single motion or the motion be updated to include the extension, but I'm not going to support not extending the emergency.
Councilmember Tizer, you made a motion that did not specify the extension. Or is your intention to make the motion to cover both items?
My motion was to set a hearing date for April 8th.
And not extend the suspension?
The suspension would automatically expire, as I understand it.
I'm just trying to get clarification here because I think we might have a couple of motions here. Okay. So, and does Councilmember Tizer have a second on that motion? Yeah, oh, sorry. Okay, so we've got the motion and a second. So all those in favor, please raise your hands. And we've got Councilmember Tizer, Councilmember Wilsey, and Councilmember Judy in favor. All those opposed? We've got Councilmember Zapata, Councilmember Grower, and Councilmember Palermo. I believe this is the second time that I have broken a tie. So I will not support that motion. I would like to see the suspension continued. I think that these are very, very serious charges in the city of Roswell, and I just can't support them continuing unless we have the full hearing. So the motion failed. So is there another motion someone would like to pass? Or bring forward, I should say. Councilmember Palermo.
Motion to set the hearing for April 8th and extend the emergency.
There's a motion to set the hearing for April 8th and extend the emergency by Councilmember Palermo. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Grower. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it is Grower, Zapata, Palermo, and Judy. All those opposed? Councilmember Tizer and Councilmember Wilsey. The motion carries. The last item on the agenda this evening is a recommendation for closure to discuss personnel, litigation, and real estate. Do we have a motion?
Motion to move to closure.
Motion by Councilmember Grower. Do we have a second? Second. Second by Councilmember Wilsey. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously. We are adjourned.